Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Kessler. I'm a graduate campus recruiter with EY, and we are so excited that you have asked us to be part of the McDonough Virtual Recruiting Summit. On behalf of my colleagues who will be joining us shortly, as well as Jasmine Watson-Booth, who leads our undergraduate efforts at McDonough, thank you. And I am thrilled to introduce Brigid McNally, who's going to guide us through a panel session.
Thank you, Rachel. It's my pleasure to be here today, and I'm thrilled to be moderating this virtual networking panel for the Georgetown McDonough School of Business students. I was just in their shoes a few years ago. I'm a 2019 MBA hire into our consulting group, into the business transformation, business design competency, and the sales and service subcompetency. I do have the distinct pleasure today to introduce our three partner panelists for our discussion today, Chris Hergesell, Ray Mikovits, and Erin Shea. So before we begin our discussion today, I will allow our partner panelists to introduce themselves, and Chris, we'll begin with you.
Great, thanks, Brigid. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Hergesell. I'm a managing director in our business design practice. I work together with Brigid quite frequently in our sales and service subcompetency. I've been with EY about 12 years now and was a Georgetown MBA student 2001. So it's always good to be back on campus, even if it is virtual. So good to be with you all today.
And hi, everybody. Ray Mikovits. I am a Georgetown McDonough graduate from 1989, and I went right from Georgetown to EY. So I've been with the firm for 30 years. I'm a partner in our financial services practice. I am also the office managing partner of our Hoboken facility. We opened that in January of 18, have about 1,800 people there. I've spent my career on the assurance side in financial services, so global investment banks, broker-dealers, exchanges, asset management, data information providers. Got my graduate degree from a different school, so Columbia, in the city, while I was still working at the firm. It is a pleasure to be with you today, and hopefully we can address many of your questions that you may have.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Erin Shea. I'm a partner in our financial services office as well in our tax practice. I focus on our wealth and asset management clients, so predominantly hedge funds, private equity funds, etc. I was a Georgetown undergraduate. In fact, my degree is behind me, if you can see it. And when I was on the Hilltop, I actually played tennis there as well. So balanced some school and some sport while I was there, and look forward to connecting with everyone here in this session.
Excellent. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So for our Georgetown students, there will be three sections to this video today. The first section, we will discuss some of the recent changes we've been seeing with our business clients and how they're interacting with us. The second part, we will discuss what some of those cultural implications are. And then the third part, we'll discuss what does this mean to you, for you, as you embark on your own virtual networking soon during this recruiting season. So Chris, I'll start with you first. And all of our panelists, if you can respond to this. So for our first section, can you provide some light on the recent changes you're seeing in business due to COVID-19?
Sure. So, you know, from where I sit, it's been a pretty dramatic shift, as you would expect. In mid-March, we went from a motion where, you know, we as consultants would go out and spend most of the week with our clients, you know, get on an airplane, travel, be on site with a client, and then travel home and Thursday evening, to no travel at all. So for us, travel ceased. Our clients stopped going to their offices. They all started working remotely and engaging on Zoom calls and, you know, video conferencing calls. And for some clients, that was easier than others. For clients that already had that kind of a virtual model where they'd made those investments in technology, it was a pretty easy progression for them. For others, it was very, very difficult. If you have an office culture and you're used to going into an office and now you're doing everything virtually, it's a massive, massive shift. Many of my clients are technology companies. So I work with a lot of Silicon Valley companies, high-tech companies. And for them, this evolution, I think, was maybe a little bit easier than for some other industries, since they were already a little bit more progressive and, in their kind of work from home policies. And so that shift was, I think, a little more seamless for them. And I think that they're holding out for kind of a long pattern of working remotely. And you may have seen some of the articles out there mentioning some of the Silicon Valley companies who are closing down their offices for good, and will allow everybody to work virtually, forever, essentially. Not all companies are doing that. Some are saying, look, we're going to be closed through the end of the year. Some are saying, we'll reopen when we hit certain thresholds in terms of safety. But for right now, everybody's at home. They're on their couches and they're doing video calls.
Right.
Yeah, maybe I'll pick up on a couple of topics that Chris just mentioned, and one of them is around the remote environment. So, we as a firm at EY, we're very comfortable working in a remote environment. As consultants, as assurance or tax practitioners, we are at our client location. So by definition, we're remote from our office. So what we found, and I found, is that clients were reaching out to us to ask us, well, how do you do this? And so that initial series of questions that came at the end of March, it took them some time to get up to speed with this remote environment. And we were trying to leverage our own experiences. And I think they were very thankful for that. And then it became a more BAU, business as usual, for them as they started to get more and more comfortable with it. The other side is then the client's business. So, as you heard in my introduction, I'm in the financial services practice, and they operated very differently. So some of the groups in financial services, the traders, let's say, yes, they can set up their trading shops and you can have 5 monitors around your screen in your home office location, and that's okay. But they lost a little bit of that on the desk, yelling out to each other to really see what's happening in the market. So that was a change for them. Now, I might say the finance function, the operational function, some of those were more easily transitioned to a remote environment. And those groups also had to address the regulators. The regulators took their foot off the gas a little bit, not a lot of it. They never take their foot off the gas a lot of it, but they did say, we're going to allow you some time to figure this out, but we are going to make sure you keep the operating controls, the remote controls in place, because we still need you to monitor what's happening with those traders. Someone who might be sitting in Montana, someone who might be sitting in New Jersey or in Florida. So there's different elements of this. Business has changed, but it certainly has become more business as usual with the passage of some months.
And Ray, it's interesting. I think what's the business as usual point was fascinating, where, right, our firm to a large extent went home on a Friday and on Monday turned on from home. And during kind of one of the most busy times traditionally for an accounting firm, with issuing financial statements and tax compliance and so on, and to be able to succeed during that type of period, I think was really remarkable, and sort of a testament to your point, to the fact that our firm embraces flexibility, and by nature we're often working remotely, or at least not in our office. And so it was an interesting position to be in, as Ray mentioned, just being a business advisor to our clients, even if that wasn't our per se practice about, how to operate technology in a remote environment, but just being there with our clients and saying how we tend to connect with our teams, remain engaged, that type of thing. So it was an interesting way to kind of help them through things. And, as it made me think of one thing too, when Ray was talking about, a trader being out in Montana. I'm in the tax practice. So this whole thing has brought up a lot of interesting tax questions, as people are no longer working in their traditional buildings, in traditional cities. And in some cases, employers don't even understand exactly where all their employees are. So lots of different things that we've been thinking about, in a COVID world that no one ever anticipated.
Yeah, that's very true. Even my own UI colleagues, we all discussed, we're definitely adapting to this with our clients. So, given Chris, you mentioned about working remotely and the shift to digital, Ray, how some of those conversations are so different. And then Erin, just, how do you manage the workload and, with the whole change of shifting to digital and virtual. So this certainly has some type of implication on culture and how our clients are reorganizing themselves internally, and then how they interact with others, such as ourselves. So, Ray, I'll begin with you, but what do you guys think the cultural implications of these changes are? And then the follow-up to that is, how do you see virtual impacting the EY culture and community?
They're really, really critical points that you raised, Brigid. And, our culture, you can't change. That is the cornerstone of who we are and what we do. So we will make it work in this environment in whatever shape or form how that evolves. Our culture is one of collaboration. So I mentioned earlier, again, in my introduction, in Hoboken, a 180,000 square foot facility that was built around the concept of collaboration. So no, mahogany offices, everything is open environment, glass everywhere. And that is to drive collaboration, right? And that's when we're all in that office and I can walk down the hall, and whether that's, another partner, a staff person, a senior who just joined from Georgetown, I want to talk to that person. And so, yes, is a little bit more difficult in a remote environment? Certainly is, but is it doable? Absolutely. And, I've found I've got a number of examples where, these one-on-one calls where I can just click a button and Erin pops up on the screen, and I may have caught her off guard and there might be a cat walking on her desk or something like that. But it's a matter of finding her, working with her, and collaborating, because she and I share experiences. We've known each other a long time now. But that aspect is not going away. And it still works in the virtual environment. We make it work, and we will be back together at some point in time. It will be a little different, but we will be back together. So maintaining that collaborative culture is still a cornerstone that will not change. Brigid, you mentioned community before I maybe throw it over to Chris or Erin. And our community involvement also can't change. It can't. And there's a need for it even more now than ever. So what we're doing is virtual volunteering. So there are a number of programs with, I'll reference a Junior Achievement, phenomenal organization with which we work and do virtual volunteering for schools, for high schools. And we have programs. One of our, you've heard our Building a Better Working World, and one of the cornerstones of that is supporting the next generation of scholars. And so what we're trying to do is to volunteer our time with those in high school who may have more challenges getting to a college or an undergraduate university. And so we volunteer our time, and we do that in person pre-CV19. Well, now we're doing it like this. And we're trying to cross what you'll hear is this digital divide, and making sure there are people who have the access to the laptops, to the connectivity, so that we can volunteer our time and still help someone go to freshman to sophomore year in high school, sophomore to junior, start helping them work on applications and SATs, get to college. And I can't tell you how rewarding that is when you've worked with someone and you see their acceptance into a college. The tears start flowing when you get that word. So that's not going to change, and building a better working world is critical to EY. So Brigid, I kind of jumped on both the cultural aspect and community. I didn't know if you want me to cover stuff.
No, that was great. I appreciate that. Really good insight. So Chris and Erin, I'll hand it over to you if you have additional thoughts as well.
Maybe I can kick us off, Erin, and then give it over to you. What I see is that people and organizations are really leveraging off of the investments they made in culture and in relationships previously, prior to this whole COVID-19 thing hitting us. So, where people know each other, where there already is a strong culture, they're still kind of on a glide path coming off of that. And I wonder, for those firms, as I mentioned earlier, that are planning to work virtually forever, will that eventually erode the culture? And, you know, Ray was mentioning that eventually we will come back together and we'll be together. And so, you know, it's my belief that for organizations to have a culture, you also need to have a way to engage with one another in a social way, in kind of a creative way. And so I wonder what that'll do to some of our clients that, you know, think they're going to work virtually forever. You can build relationships over, you know, virtually by virtual means. I think it's much harder to build culture in that way. And so, you know, I think we don't know what the answer is. We don't know what the future holds. But you know, I think that there are companies that are kind of using some goodwill that's been built up in terms of culture, in terms of relationships now. And they're going to need to rebuild that coming out of this thing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, Chris, because there's a lot of, I think a lot of companies are considering using this to pause and to think about, you know, the trajectory of their firm and to what extent, you know, working from home or flexibility or where people work is going to be the same or look different. And, you know, what does it mean to them, you know, to their people, but also as a business and potentially, you know, cost savings and things like that. So I think there's a lot to consider in there. And it's, you know, I think one thing you notice about all this is that people are amazingly resilient and adaptable and, you know, more senior partners that I never thought would be on a video conference are and are embracing it. And, you know, I think people are working together to embrace the situation that you're in. And if we had ever tried to make everyone adopt video conferencing before this happened, it probably wouldn't have happened as quickly, obviously, as it does when, you know, there's a crisis to face. So I think everyone's trying to use this moment to figure out what things look like for them going forward. And so it's interesting to talk to all of our clients. And that's one of the amazing things of working for Ernst & Young and having a broad range of clients is hearing, you know, each of them and what they're considering and what they're thinking of doing with their people and so on. But I think to me, and the point on the relationship and culture is it does require us to be a little more proactive and to be intentional about the interactions that you're having and sort of crafting the experiences you're having for both your client and your teams. So it takes maybe a little more intention, but it's really not that hard. And there's some amazing things like Ray said that I can just push a button and then suddenly Ray and I are face-to-face talking. Or right now I actually have working on a proposal and one of the partners, the founders, is stuck in Austria because of COVID. And here we are just meeting each other face-to-face and it would have been a phone call previously. So, I mean, there's amazing silver linings as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when we never used video when we would connect, but now video is definitely the default. So yeah, great insights. Really appreciate your thoughts. And so segueing into our third section here, you know, Ray, you definitely mentioned connecting with our colleagues, you know, whether it was, you know, in the office or virtually. And, you know, Chris, you had great commentary on, you know, the power of the network and relationships, and Erin, especially about adapting. And so considering that, you know, one of the most valuable things you can get out of a business school, especially like Georgetown, is the network and those relationships with alumni, you know, what are some of the thoughts that you would leave with our Georgetown students today? You know, what does this new virtual networking environment look for them as they move forward in their business careers, virtually networking with some of the firms or companies they would like to connect with? Erin, I think I'll begin with you.
Sure. I think it comes back to what I was saying before about being intentional. There aren't going to be as many sort of created events for you that you may go and network at. I think you're going to have to kind of create some of these connections and experiences. I do think one amazing thing though is people aren't, as Chris said, traveling around. And I tend to have a little more availability if someone wants to sit and meet with me, because my weeks aren't blocked out for, you know, whether it's travel or all these different meetings, there's just, or even commuting, you know, so there is a little bit more availability to connect with people. But I think you know, I think everyone in this audience needs to kind of sit down and think about, you know, what am I trying to do? Who am I trying to connect with? Who do I know? Who do I know that might know someone? And just start to create some of those opportunities for yourself. It's just going to require a little more, you know, proactivity, I guess, to make those connections, in my opinion.
Great point. Chris?
Sure. So, I guess if I had to kind of encapsulate one thing that I would want folks to take away in their networking effort is don't underestimate the power of commonality. And what I mean by that is if you as a Georgetown student reach out to a Georgetown alum, they will take your call. Odds are. If you reach out to somebody that you went to grade school with, odds are they'll take your call. So you have a lot of networks at your disposal, and you will be amazed at the amount of goodwill that you get through that commonality. It buys you trust, it buys you access, and so really take advantage of those myriad networks that you have, whether it's a similar degree, a similar college, a similar grade school, a similar city that you grew up in, friends of friends. There's a lot that you can seize on there.
Great.
Thanks. Maybe I'll going to pile on a little bit here, and I definitely want to come back to one of the questions about some of the challenges that we have, like phones ringing in the background when we are going through these presentations. But I want to pick up on two words that Erin said earlier, which is just embrace the situation. Okay, we look back, and you can go back generation by generation, and every generation had its challenges. You all and we all will grow from this. We're going to learn from this, and we can continue back on what is the greatest generation. And I have my own opinions for another time. But what I think with respect to what we're going through now is recognize that people get it. People are very empathetic about what is happening, and we know that you're going through a very challenging time. I also have 3 kids in college this upcoming year, so I can't keep straight who's going where and what's remote and what's not. But listen, I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to day by day, and we'll get through it, and just keep on with what Chris's great points there. People are going to take your calls, okay? And so just remember to network with each other, and then with those from Georgetown as well. So all of those critical points, and I feel like I'm piling on a little bit, but I think they're really important.
Yeah, definitely very important. And we did have a specific question come in to address on this video, and it was more about in a worst case scenario, what happens if someone has reached out to you and you're on the phone and the Wi-Fi disconnects, or there's a storm coming through, or their battery is low, or something happens. What is your advice to any of these students, given we've been through it for the last couple of months, and it's almost the new normal for us, but some of these students may be experiencing these sort of definite worst case scenarios for the first time in a very different environment for them. What would you recommend they do, because they're trying to make a great impression?
Let me go first, if you don't mind, because I chuckle when I think back over the last 4 or 5 months of all the things that haven't been as smooth sailing as one would think. Phones ringing in the background, it happens. A cat walking across the video screen. In fact, that happened, I think, there was a British Parliament member who was giving a speech to the UK, and his cat walked across in his office in Parliament, which was hysterical. Faces freeze at the worst time. You might be in a sneeze, and all of a sudden your face freezes, or the hurricane just kind of came through and knocks out periodically. These things will happen, and don't worry. Take a breath. We get it. We understand it. The technology is not perfect everywhere at this point in time, but we understand it, and just work with it. Reconnect. Have going up front in the call to say, hey, if there is a connectivity issue, can I call your mobile? And just have that outlet so that you can have the one-on-one conversation if the video doesn't work. It's okay. It's happened. It will happen again. And then just, again, look at it as another challenge that you will overcome.
Yeah, I don't think I was going to add to that. I think too, because it's all new technology, and sometimes you're on Zoom, sometimes we're on Microsoft Teams, could be something else. Give yourself a little time, log in a little early, that type of thing, test it out, see what angle it is. You know, for a while I was sitting with a window behind myself and no one could see me. It was just a shadowy figure until I moved myself, you know, silly stuff like that. But I think, and just, you know, give yourself some grace. Like Ray said, everyone's in the same situation. Everyone understands. I think when we first started this, I just had a baby in September and I was very conscientious if the baby cried, because you're thinking of normal situations. Like it's like, am I just working from home and everyone else is in the office? But everyone's in the same situation. So everyone has the cat, the dog, the baby, you know, the roommate that's walking back, whatever it is. And so I think just having some grace and being able to address it. And I think also, like Ray said, I think having multiple ways to contact someone when you're going to meet up with them. If it goes out, then you can try calling them. Just make sure you have multiple ways and it's not just this single Zoom link and then you have no other options if they come through. But please know, I think everyone understands, everyone's going through the same thing. And if you have a little grace and humility, it'll carry you through it.
Yeah, I'll pile on a little bit. You know, don't sweat it. Stuff happens. It's not a big deal. And, you know, I think you'll find that most people are remarkably tolerant and have all been there themselves. I have a colleague who has a baby at home, and his wife plays in a symphony orchestra, and she practices her clarinet scales in the background. So between crying and clarinet scales, there's a lot of background noise. And hey, you know, it is what it is. It's fine. I think, you know, Erin's point about us all, you know, having grace is on the mark.
Yeah, great points. I know in my own experience, sometimes the most fun in a conference call is when the dog comes up and we get to meet, you know, who the pet is. So I think we're almost at time, and I'm going to allow Ray, Erin, and Chris for you to just give us one of your final thoughts you'd like to leave with our Georgetown students before our live session next week. Chris, I'll go with you first.
All right, I'll go first. Yeah, sure. Look, this is certainly is going to be a memorable year for all of us, for all of you. You know, find the silver linings, find the goodness in all of this newness, and make the most of it. And you know, remember that you're in college to, you know, learn and build networks, and so, you know, I think keep an open mind and make the most of this year, whatever it may hold for us.
Yeah, and now I will be the one to pile on a little bit, but I 100% agree. I think it's all about, and you know, as I said earlier, embracing things, finding that silver lining, and being positive about things. I think the people that do the best and are noticed the most are those that can really take anything and be positive about it and find a way forward, find the silver lining, find a way to sort of laugh about the experience. And I think that's what this is about. I mean, we're all going through the same thing. There's no, you know, there's certain things about it that are extremely sad, but to dwell on that is not helpful. And so I think about the things that you can do to be helpful in this situation for yourself and for those around you. That positivity is really contagious, and it's what people notice and gravitate towards.
And maybe some final thoughts. You know, looking at Erin's diploma over her shoulder, and you know, thinking about what you guys have experienced in your time at Georgetown. Georgetown really prepares you well for the next stage. You know, I use the example all the time of the foundation on which we build, you know, a mansion of a house. You know, it is critical. What we do on the hilltop and what the school has done has prepared all of us extremely well, and it will do the same for you. So remember that pedigree that you have. Yes, we're in a challenging time, but again, embrace it, get through it. You will talk about it 50 years from now of what we went through, okay? And there are many aspects of that. So we're gonna get through this. We absolutely will. A little challenge at the moment, embrace it, get through it, and we'll be on to the next stage in no time whatsoever.
Excellent. Thank you all. For our Georgetown students, we do have a live session coming up next week. And there we'll talk more about the importance of virtual networking, how to effectively virtually network, and how to enhance your digital presence. I'd like to extend a very big thank you to Chris, Erin, and Ray for joining us today, for so willingly giving their insights to you. And of course, Rachel, thank you so much. You are a rock star for organizing this for all of the students and for EY. For our Georgetown students, we hope this was helpful, and we hope to see you in our live session next week. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.